Imagine living in a giant floating laboratory high above the Earth. That's exactly what astronauts do on the Tiangong space station. It's a super clean, high-tech home where scientists conduct amazing experiments. In May 2023, while doing their chores, the Shenzhou 15 crew decided to take some tiny swabs, like a cotton bud you'd use for your ear, and wipe them on the surfaces inside their space home. They were looking for microscopic stowaways, tiny living things called microbes. They sent these samples back down to Earth for scientists to study under powerful microscopes, and what they found was truly out of this world. It was a brand new kind of life. Scientists discovered a bacterium that had never been seen before on Earth. A bacterium is a tiny, single-celled organism, so small you need a microscope to see it. They are everywhere, in the soil, in the water, and even inside our bodies. Most are harmless, and many are even helpful. But this one was different because it was found living and thriving in space. To celebrate this amazing discovery, the scientists gave it a very special name, Niallia tiangongensis. The name Tiangongensis is a shout-out to the Tiangong space station where it was first found. How cool is that? It's like being the first person to discover a new animal in a hidden jungle. This wasn't just any old bacteria. It was a survivor. The space station is a tough place to live. There's microgravity, which makes everything float, and cosmic radiation, which is like a constant blast of high-energy particles. It's also a very isolated place. But somehow, this little microbe figured out how to make a home there. The discovery, announced to the world in March 2025, made scientists everywhere sit up and pay attention. It showed us that life is even tougher and more adaptable than we ever imagined. It's a reminder that even when we build the cleanest, most controlled environments, life always seems to find a way to pop up. Think about it. Astronauts travel to space, and they take tiny, invisible passengers with them on their skin and in their breath. These microbes, which are normally found on Earth, suddenly find themselves in a totally new environment. The discovery of Niallia tiangongensis tells a fascinating story of evolution in Fast Forward. It shows that these tiny life forms can change and adapt to the extreme challenges of space. This single, tiny discovery opened up a whole new set of questions for scientists to answer about how life works, not just on Earth, but anywhere in the universe. It's a genuine, real-life space mystery waiting to be solved. So, what's the secret to surviving in space if you're a tiny bacterium? Niallia tiangongensis has some amazing tricks up its sleeve. Its closest relative on Earth is a bacterium that lives in the soil, which is already used to tough conditions. But the space version has taken survival to a whole new level. One of its cleverest tricks is making something called a spore. Imagine a knight in a full suit of armor. When conditions get really harsh, like too much radiation or not enough food, the bacterium can build a super tough protective shell around itself and go into a deep sleep. This armored-up version, called an endospore, can wait patiently for things to get better. Another superpower this bacterium has is building its own shield. It can team up with other bacteria to create a sticky, slimy layer called a biofilm. This isn't just random slime, it's a highly organized community. Think of it like building a fortress out of goo. This biofilm protects the bacteria inside from radiation and other dangers. It also helps them stick to surfaces, so they don't just float away. By working together and building these protective films, the bacteria can create their own little safe zone, even in the middle of a hostile environment like a space station. It's a perfect example of teamwork making the dream work, even for microbes. To stay alive, every living thing needs to eat. But there aren't many snacks floating around in a space station. Niallia tiangongensis has figured out a solution. Scientists found that it has a special ability to break down something called gelatin to get the nutrients it needs, like nitrogen and carbon. It's like being able to eat the walls of your house if you ran out of food in the kitchen. This special metabolism shows that the bacterium has evolved to use whatever resources are available in its strange new home. It has even lost some abilities its earthbound cousins have, trading them in for new skills that are more useful for space life. This process of change is called evolution, and it's happening much faster in space. The unique environment of the Tiangong station, with its constant radiation, microgravity, and confinement, is like a high-speed training ground for microbes. It forces them to adapt or die. Niallia tiangongensis is a graduate of this tough school. By studying its genes, scientists can see the exact changes it made to survive. It's like reading a diary that tells the story of how a simple Earth microbe transformed itself into a seasoned space traveler. This little organism is teaching us so much about the resilience and creativity of life. Now, when scientists find a new microbe living where people live, they always ask an important question. Is it friendly or is it a foe? With Niallia tiangongensis, the answer is a little complicated. On one hand, its closest relative on Earth is usually harmless, but can, in very rare cases, make people with weak immune systems sick. This is a bit worrying because we know that living in space for a long time can weaken an astronaut's immune system. So, scientists need to watch this space bacterium carefully to make sure it doesn't become a health risk for the crew living and working on the space station. There's another concern. These spacefaring bacteria could become resistant to our medicines. Because they are evolving so quickly, they might develop defenses against the antibiotics we use to fight infections. If an astronaut got sick from one of these super-adapted bacteria, our standard treatments might not work as well. This is a serious issue for long-duration missions like a trip to Mars, where you can't just come back to Earth for a doctor's visit. The health and safety of our astronauts is the #1 priority, so understanding these microbes is absolutely critical for the future of space exploration. Beyond health, these tiny organisms could also cause big problems for the space station itself. Their ability to form biofilms means they can grow on important equipment. Imagine a slimy film growing over the lens of a sensitive camera, or, even worse, clogging up a critical part of the life support system that provides air and water to the crew. Uncontrolled microbial growth could damage delicate instruments and machinery, putting the entire mission at risk. That's why space agencies are so focused on keeping spacecraft as clean as possible and monitoring the microbes that manage to survive. But it's not all bad news. Studying these bacteria could also be incredibly helpful. By understanding how Niallia tiangongensis builds its protective biofilms, we might be able to learn new ways to create materials that resist radiation. Or perhaps we could use its unique abilities in the future. Could we engineer bacteria to help us recycle waste on long space voyages, or even mine for useful minerals on other planets? For now, we are just starting to understand this new microbe, but it represents both a challenge to overcome and a world of new possibilities to explore. The discovery of Niallia tiangongensis is much bigger than just finding one new type of bacteria. It's like finding a clue in the grand search for life beyond Earth. If a common Earth bacterium can hitch a ride to space and quickly adapt to survive there, it makes you wonder, could life from another planet do the same? This field of science is called astrobiology, the study of life in the universe. This discovery gives astrobiologists important insights. It suggests that the basic building blocks of life are incredibly tough and might be able to survive the harsh journey between planets, perhaps by hiding inside meteorites. This tiny space survivor teaches us what to look for on other worlds, like Mars. Mars has a very thin atmosphere and is blasted with radiation, which sounds a lot like the conditions inside a space station. If bacteria can learn to protect themselves with spores and biofilms in orbit, maybe similar life forms could be hiding under the Martian soil, waiting for the right conditions to emerge. Niallia tiangongensis gives us a real-life example of the kinds of adaptations we might need to search for when we send rovers and eventually humans to explore other planets and moons in our solar system. For future space missions, this discovery is a wake-up call. As we plan to build bases on the moon or send people on the long journey to Mars, we need to become expert microbial managers. This means developing better ways to sterilize spacecraft before they launch to avoid bringing unwanted passengers. It also means creating advanced systems to monitor the microbes that inevitably come along for the ride, watching how they change in real time. We need to be prepared for any surprises these tiny, fast-evolving organisms might throw at us, ensuring our astronauts stay healthy and our missions succeed. Ultimately, Niallia tiangongensis is a beautiful example of how interconnected everything is. A mission to study the stars ended up teaching us more about the smallest forms of life. It reminds us that even as we reach for planets and distant galaxies, there is a hidden, microscopic universe all around us that is just as mysterious and exciting. Every new discovery, no matter how small, helps us piece together the amazing puzzle of life. And that is what science is all about: staying curious, exploring the unknown, and considering everything. The universe is full of wonders, from giant stars to tiny space bacteria. Consider the following.